8:20 p.m. turn to Schoengrabern. I think we're going to see the French really make a difference here with their numerical advantage. Let's get to the... well, we'll get to the movement phase. We do have some cavalry in the open here, but no real good targets to charge, even moving across to the west side. We have one exhausted unit, one unit in good order and ready, but no good targets. So we're just going to move the French forward, starting here on the west side, I think. That's a little unusual. Legrand was stuck in the vineyard, seemingly unable to emerge. Much of the Russian defense shifted to the east, but then it sort of collapsed at the wrong time. Now Legrand's men are in perfect position to make some really good movements. So we got these light infantry with 6 movement points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that gets them on the other side of the tree line there. And we have this cavalry who can probably break free a little bit. I think we will move them to counter that infantry right there. Just stepping back a bit, we'll see the rest of this infantry kind of try to make their way forward. Kind of hard to move along this path, so they're not going to get too much farther. We're going to favor that artillery. Just slide that infantry in behind. Last we have this skirmisher unit there. I think we will put them back into jump. Oh, what? I thought that was a skirmisher unit. That was a foul up. Oops. Oh well, they didn't do a lot of damage. I don't know, as some sort of penance, we'll just leave them right there. I must have knocked that guy over and then just mistakenly thought he was in skirmish mode. So look here in the center. I should probably think of putting different markings on the back of the counters to identify things like skirmish, so I don't do stupid things like that. But we have the grenadiers here out in the open, so we're going to start to move them forward. This guy is a skirmisher, I know that. We're going to crowd that exhausted cavalry right there. Going to move right on top and stack with that artillery. Now it's getting pretty crowded right in through here. We have the cavalry skirmishers there, so we're not going to get very far in their zone of control. These are the dragoons. So we'll just move some infantry up to try to trouble them with some fire. The last bit of grenadiers here. We can probably sneak around the back side of this dragoon unit and get him out into the clear. That leaves us with Suchet's men and the French cavalry here. The cavalry does not want to try to engage, more or less screen the advance of the infantry. The rest of the units are going to be stuck still in the vineyard. We'll move Suchet up to join some of his guys. That should be all the movement for the French this turn. We have been able to get into contact with the skirmishers and some cavalry, so we'll start the defensive fire phase here. The only fires we have here are the cavalry skirmishers against the French. Wow, nice big number. Rolled boxcars. That will be a casualty on the grenadiers here. Fire two more. That should be also roll of 56. So that's a casualty. And one more. So that's a low number, so that is no casualty. Now the benefit here is that then they can retreat and don't have to suffer any kind of fire from the French infantry. So now let's just move on to the offensive fire phase here for the French. So we have some Cossacks right here, a little bit of French infantry that can fire at them. So we rolled a pretty good number in the 50s. That's going to be a casualty and a morale check. Cossacks don't like to face infantry, but they rolled a very big number, a 65 on the morale dice, so they do stand their ground despite being exhausted. Right here we have one shot on those retreating grenadiers. Wow, another big number in the 60s, so that will be another casualty. And that is the last increment of that battalion. So another Russian infantry battalion disappears. I think we are down to 2 infantry battalions and some cavalry. The French might pull this thing out. We have one more shot over here on the east side. We have these line infantry in column that can shoot at the Cossacks. Low number, so no increment loss. But Cossacks don't like to be fired at, so they will generally check morale. Well, not generally. They will, by rule, check morale every time they're fired at. They have a morale of 34. The morale dice are 34, so they will rout. So one more piece of the puzzle for the French has fallen away. Now right here we have our final shot. These 2 battalions can fire at the Cossacks, or excuse me, the Dragoons. Big number, 63. The French are rolling well this time. That'll be a casualty on the Dragoons. Causes a morale check, but they roll a good morale dice and they pass. So that's the end of that. We have melee coming up now. And I have to undo a mistake. That Russian battalion can fire at that French cavalry, so we're going to just clean that up, throw the dice. It's a miss. So no harm, no foul. We can move on to the melee phase. These French have a 14 melee against those 10. It doesn't seem like it's worth it. We like the blocking position we're in there. So we're going to call that the end of the melee phase without declaring or undertaking any melees. Now we just need to try to rally a couple of French battalions that are still running away from the field. We have the one right up here. Low number, so they're not going to rally. And one more heading down the path. That's a 46. Doesn't look good. There are 26. They are routed with losses and a morale level. Yeah, they're still routed. So no recoveries there. We'll just conduct some route moves here. Two, four, six, 8. Now one more. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, that will conclude the French turn. The Legrand's division on the left is actually in the best position to make a run at Guntersdorf before the game concludes. So let's switch over and look at the Russians and see if they can get back in position to try to hold them off. So the field is definitely starting to collapse here. Basically we have some Austrian cavalry, nothing, then some Russian cavalry, one infantry battalion, some Cossacks way in the back here, more or less trapped, and the dragoons are absolutely trapped. So it's going to be hard for them to get out of this, but we'll give it a shot here. Let's start with the Russian movement phase. We're going to try to get the dragoons out of harm's way. They're going to have to ride through this little gap here, which means they're going to get shot at a few times. So the first movement point will take them to here, where they can be fired upon by that French infantry in column. We roll a 42, which is not enough to cause an increment loss. Fat finger and bowl their way through the French lines. One more movement point takes them out of those zones of control. And another very low number means they escape without any harm. Getting a little more room. They've moved 3 movement points. 4, 5, 6. So they've moved enough that they will not be able to recover any readiness this turn. But they will be able to impede the French a little bit. We're going to try to move this battalion out of here, get away from that cavalry. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 up the slope. It's interesting right here. We still need to protect that battalion. So we're going to keep the French at bay with our skirmishers. We're going to move save ourselves the bother of pivoting and moving around. They have more than enough movement points to make that move. Now we're going to try to get the Austrians out of here. Given that the French are so much weaker, it's not a good idea to try to opportunity charge those guys. So we're going to move them a little silly zigzagging motion there, just because they have such all-around facing. That just keeps them moving through their front neck sides. And finally, around Guntersdorf itself, we can get the infantry into place. Now I say finally because I have Cossacks there that are stuck right here, but if I move them they get shot at. They'd probably end up routing, so I may as well just leave them there. So that'll conclude the Russian movement phase. On the French side we have one fire attack we can make here against those very same Cossacks. Rolled a very low number, but subjected to fire they also check morale, and it's a very high number, so they will pass. There are no French or Russian attacks to be made, so that's going to bring a quick end to this turn. The Russians have one unit that they want to be able to rally, which are those Cossacks that ran away. Rolled a nice high number of 65. So at least they rally. They're still in a state of exhaustion. But that should be it for our turn here. No one else to rally, no one else to recover. So the French have a very wide open path to Guntersdorf right here. But they got all kinds of wide open paths. So we're going to try to sweep these hussars around and maybe check them, but there's no doubt Legrand is going to have the best chance at taking the town. So that's the conclusion of the 2020 turn. We now have 2 more turns before this game will be done.